Okay, I emailed another link. I was just sitting there. Oh, there it just, I'm just sitting here.
All right. Okay.
I don't know what's happening with Zoom because the same thing happened with Jamie the other day. I got in, I was just sitting there and she was like, "Where are you at?" And I'm like, "I'm here." Like,
Tammy,
Jamie, you're,
maybe I'm the
you're,
bad I'm the bad juju
no, no,
apparently.
It's
oh, I'm,
too much energy
yeah,
for the
thing
three of
going on.
us.
Oh,
No one Zoom can hold us all.
ah. Well, it's great. Whatever. The same thing happened when she was doing my session, and she would say like, "Where are you at?" And I'm like, "I'm right here." And I see where you're logging in, but it's like Zoom. I think Zoom just is quirky sometimes. But anyway,
I just
well,
have
hello and
to hop
welcome.
off. I just have to hop off in 20 minutes.
Okay, you only get to talk for 20 minutes. Okay. We'll start. I want to start with welcome, Jamie. I was um the Destiny Matrix was fabulous, and I kind of wanted to talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because same thing, we were kind of cut short. And but so you have a lot of or you're on Instagram. So tell me about all the things you do because it's kind of complicated for people to understand.
Yeah. You mean just from like a energy
Just
healing and holistic
overall,
wellness?
yeah, maybe tell how does one contact you? Like we met at a retreat and I
Yeah.
got to know you and connect on a couple of apps and communicate. But how does one uh, get a session with you?
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, so I have my holistic wellness and energy healing business is under the domain energyaligner.com. So it's energy, ALIGNER.com. So kind of like energy alignment, but aligner. And my Instagram is energy.aligner. So at energy.aligner. So on there, it has a bunch of a list of all of my services, which I can describe briefly what they are. And then through there, people for the Destiny Matrix, which we're going to, and the Soul Blueprint mapping reading, which we're going to cover in depth today, people can just book directly and schedule on the website. And then for the energy healing and somatic coaching, which I'll go into a little bit, those you can just schedule a quick discovery call with me to answer any questions and just understand what they're trying to set an intention for to schedule. So that's all through the website directly. Yeah, so currently I'm focusing in four services. Two are related. So I studied with Dr. Sue Morter. So those who are into holistic wellness and spirituality may have heard of her. She's sort of a bioenergetic medicine pioneer. She built the first brick and mortar center for bioenergetic medicine. And so I had the privilege of studying with her for energy healing and somatic coaching. So she has a book called The Energy Codes, which people may have heard of. The coaching that I do that's somatic is based on principles of that book. That's all done virtually. And I do a 3-month program helping people feel in their body where they're still holding somatic cellular memory from experiences, and guide them through various breathwork techniques that are specific to that area of the body or wherever chakra that is stored, to gently release those. So it's a way of shifting your perspective and having more clarity and more alignment through breath work. I also do supportive meditation and journaling techniques. There's a whole workbook that goes with that. And then in person, I also, through Dr. Sue, Was certified in something called the bioenergetic synchronization technique, which is a mouthful. People have heard of Reiki. They haven't heard of this, which is BEST for short. It's a lot easier to say BEST than bioenergetic synchronization technique. But what it is it leverages muscle testing as a basis to ask yes or no questions to the subconscious. So things that are overwhelming to the subconscious, no matter if you are Hulk Hogan, and you would crush me in an arm wrestling competition. If I put, just 2 fingers on your wrist and you're holding your arm up, your arm will at a minimum wiggle. And if it's very overwhelming, it'll just go right down. And so we use that as a comparison to a neutral thought, to go through a series to figure out what's reactive to that person. And then I use contact points similar to acupuncture to help to reprogram or release, and help to align that person's energy. So it's another way to also release sort of stored subconscious emotions and belief systems that are limiting. And then one additional service as a tangent to that is something called the spiritual bioenergetic synchronization technique, or spiritual BEST. And that one is more focused on chakra balancing using muscle testing. So as opposed to specific limiting beliefs and fears, it's balancing the chakra system and the subtle energy systems as a whole, but also leveraging that same muscle testing. And then, of course, the soul blueprint, which we'll discuss more about today. And that's sort of a way for people to decode. It's a self-awareness tool, really. It's not predictive or fortune telling. It's a self-awareness tool that helps people decode kind of their intentions pre-birth for this lifetime, what they intended to uncover, what they intended to explore. And it's a way to see where you're still manifesting through shadow. And that's kind of where it highlights where work is for every person at any time.
Yeah, I did a little research on that because I had one, and I enjoyed it. The so I mean, what I was kind of understanding, this is based on numerology, also the tarot, which, like you said, the tarot is designed to show you your shadows and your strengths, but what you came to work on in this lifetime. And by usually what happens, I think, as we're spiritual, we move up, but we still have shadows that we refuse to look at. And so so then you have themes. It actually even covers the chakra system, and then it gives you direction about where to go. And also I saw that you're like a life coach too. So
Yes.
I feel like that was so I don't know, Michael, did you have any questions about any of the things that I know you worked with her as well. It's sometimes a light worker, they have these big words for energy and body functions, but you use breath and sound. You also use sound, don't you? Or do you use
Not particularly in
symbol?
that
No,
exercise, but I do play
no.
sound bowls. So I do
Okay,
sound healing, but just as a pure passion project,
okay,
as of currently.
okay,
But yes, I do play sound bowls and enjoy that for sound
okay.
healing.
But well, okay. So my my focus um was on creativity for this year. So I like that focus. And as a group, there were lots of us that kind of meet periodically and discuss ideas. And I found it very interesting that a lot of us had the same blocks and the same patterns to overcome. Not identical, but similar patterns. And one was leadership. And, and that's kind of always been the purpose of my podcast, was interviewing people that are kind of new at expressing their light worker talents. So it's anyway, it's just a way to play and think about it. So Michael, I know you did some work with Jaime, and so did you have any questions about anything or things you wanted to express about it?
I remember it was amazing. I have problem with naming and titles for some reason, and the tags, and that's since I was little. Like I was, for some reason, I lose the tags and the names, titles or anything. So,
That's
but
okay. You can just talk about the work you
I
did,
was
what you realized, or anything,
like,
any
I was.
question.
No, no, no. I love it. It was right on. The funny synchronicity that we're talking about this now and today, because today earlier I had a session with someone who does emotion, what do you call it, emotion coaching or something like that. It's funny that we're talking about this today. I didn't know that this is going to be the subject. That this is such a synchronicity, and it was yeah, it was very interesting. It was like I knew a lot of stuff from her reading about me at age of 10 and 39 and a few other things I can share with you after. It was very interesting, but no, your reading was amazing, Jamie. I love it. It was right on.
Wonderful. I'm so happy to, it's so funny to me because they're all so different, like everybody's mapping is so different. And
Yes.
obviously even our
Yeah.
community and we know each other, I don't know people's childhood, right? Or like
Right.
their history.
No, it's
And
actually
it just winds up
since
being so clear.
yours is called Blueprint as well. I wonder if you can play
Soul
around with
blueprint.
Node Soul Blueprint. I wonder if
Mhm.
you could play around with Notebook LM, the Google AI. It's really cool. So the infographics that I sent earlier, I used that
Mhm.
where it puts visuals. So I
Cool.
think, imagine if you just feed it what you sent me as an email with all the read of the session, and then you just put that as well, and that way, and you can send them the link for what you have fed it, and I think that will be interesting visuals because
Totally.
Yeah.
the yeah, people can see it. No, it was very good. I love it.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a lot
And
of information.
it
Mhm.
is. And so I've revisited it a couple of times. And I was looking at it today, and it also uses sacred geometry because it's
Yeah.
actually a visual map, and you can see where the plot is thick. And then so tell tell me how you use it once the session is over, or what is your suggestion for me to continue to revisit some of this?
Well, the beauty of this is the numbers don't change, right? And it is numerology based, as you mentioned. So similar to like when you get like a natal chart reading, right? It's not that like your birth information changes. So the numerology is always going to be the map. It is going to be what it is. And so, in 5 years from now, if you pick this tool up and you revisit, right, the whole description and the run through and the detail about, the shadow and the light themes for every single node, and also what was derived from the nodes, you may interpret things differently, or you may see, oh, now I'm resonating more with like alignment in this area where I wasn't there, or now, I'm reading this and I'm seeing this coming up in my life, and so I'm seeing it's more in the shadow, but I know what the light looks like, right? Because it's this theme and it's clear. So it's always going to be a guideline at any point in time, because as part of the human experience, the work is never done, right? If the work was done, we would be source, we would be back to like just pure consciousness, and just be pure positive love and acceptance in every moment. But we're here for the contrast, right? We're here for the expansion, and this shows you those points where there's still opportunity to expand. And obviously, as we shift our perspective, what we resonate with changes as well. So even if you reread that in 5 years and you reread the whole write up, you're going to pick up something differently than you're resonating with now, because you're also going to be a different version of Tami at that point, right? So that's what's cool about it.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, I liked it. And there were definite patterns that I saw. You know, of course, one of our favorites is victimhood. Lots of it, where do you, so that's what the shadow is. So describe the shadow. For me, it means where you're not taking 100% responsibility for what's going on in your life. You're blaming outside conditions. You're not fully emotionally stable in certain environments. The triggers are what the shadows are, is what I say. So if you become very emotional, and I do, there are a couple of triggers that I have that were revealed, um, and um, and one was aggression. I freeze up in aggression when I'm confronted with aggression, and often um, just freeze. So, and inside, I can behave like I'm okay, but inside, I'm like, oh, jittery. So anyway, and it was because I was exposed to that in a couple of different ways, but so you're exposed to the shadow, but you turn it into gold, and then the tarot uh, shows you where your strength is, so you can play with the tarot. And I don't remember. Let me see. I didn't pull it up, but I did write down a couple of things. Like I remember one was the Fool card, and one was
Yes.
so. I mean, so I've always been kind of brave, but then like,
Mhm.
oh my goodness, what have I done? You know, and that's kind of what the Fool means to me. It's like people are like, oh, you're very brave, and I'm like, I'm not very brave. I'm just very foolish at times. So I love it. But I mean, but also I push through fear. I'm able to push through fear. And I think it was I think it was the Emperor next year, but it was like, um, oh, I read it down. But anyway, it doesn't matter. I just, for me, I can kind of look at tarot because I have studied hermetics, angelic magic, and I've lightly studied tarot. But it does kind of give you archetypes. So explain the archetype kind of thing a little bit.
Yeah. So the soul blueprint mapping leverages a destiny matrix framework, which is numerology based, and that's that diagram where we use your birth date to derive the nodes. Each node will be from a digit from 1 to 22. So if something's, in adding up the year and everything with your birth date, if something's in excess of 22, we keep adding digits to get down below 22. And those digits, 1 through 22, correspond to 22 archetypes in the tarot. So you talked about the Fool as sort of the beginning of the journey, right? And it ends with the World, which is sort of completion and mastery. And so, it's just a way to categorize or classify different aspects of consciousness and our experience as a human, right? So it's the polarity aspects. So, you mentioned like with the Fool, for example, that's like someone who is willing to take the risk to, in the light, right? They push through past the fear. They are willing to take the leap of faith, right? They're the ones that start the adventure. But then on a polarity spectrum, the opposite energy of that's the other end of the spectrum, would be someone who's risk averse, right? So it basically provides different aspects in polarity. And so that is how we can use it as a tool for every node, because each node has a specific meaning in terms of a theme of our lives. So one is like childhood imprinting. Another one is like how we externally present to the world. We also talked about like the different chakras, your karmic lessons, career support, all of that kind of stuff. So in each one, we can look at both ends of that polarity for what that theme represents. And we can use that as a tool to see where we're currently resonating, right? Because at one end, we can look through things through the lens of fear, right? And that's really what polarity is. It's looking through the lens of fear or looking through a lens of love, right? And one is fear and one is faith, right? And is trust. So it's, you can see where you're still manifesting unconsciously through fear. And so these archetypes allow us to have like a framework in order to figure out where we're still manifesting through fear. So let's say there's something you desire to, create in your life, whether that's like a new relationship or career change or whatever the case may be, or a big trip that you want to go on, and you've just had some blocks. This is a good starting point to maybe get some clarity as to like what is blocking you from moving forward in those areas. Mm-hmm. through those frameworks, those 22 archetypes. But really, it's just polarity. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I've played with the idea a little bit, and I think it's really good when you can see it. Like some of us, we don't see our shadows; they're hidden, and it's because normal for us was this growing up. So we're moving now to the light, and we're like, oh, that's not normal behavior. Or and I don't mean just normal behavior. Your normal is what you grew up in, and so you've based all your beliefs on that. And so one area that I really think it pertains to a lot for me right now is because it's I'm having visions and things about it, and doing activations with my friends. So this blueprint, even that word, like the human has a blueprint that is healthy in the body in every way. So a disease isn't a manifestation of fear. Mm-hmm. And we can release it, like you said, with breath, with intention, but it's looking at the shadows. In other words, we're exposed to social environments, our family history. Maybe one is aging. So you had recommended a book to Michael, and I thought that was interesting because I've kind of expanded my belief system a little bit, and I'm an energy worker as well. So I see that, for instance, someone who's got a lot of anger, manifests disease in the body from that, or
and I believe that's
things like
with
arthritis.
Kidneys, actually, for anger.
Anger, yeah. And so the book, okay, so that's what I'm saying there. It actually manifests inside the health of the body. Mm-hmm. And by doing breath work or working with someone like you can actually release that and make space for a new energy to come in. And Michael's been doing some unusual things like fasting, and mm-hmm. So it makes space for new things to come in, and reading the book that expands your belief system about what may actually be the cause of an internal conflict inside the physical health.
I have you guys. I need to talk more about this, but I just sent you a visual of actually you reading for me. And I love how it came up. I was just playing with it right now as we were talking. I just put it on the chat. I have to hop off. I have to go on the other one.
You gotta go.
I wish we can have a longer chat on this because there's so much coming.
Now you're going to talk. Okay. Send us the information on the chat. You needed to hear what.
I'll send it again on the chat, but I send it on the text, okay?
Okay. You got it. Okay. All right.
Thank you, Michael.
Bye.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I see it now.
So I actually have a ton to say about what you just brought up, mostly from my own personal experience.
Yes, but, share. Cool. I want to hear it.
So first, the book you're referring to, so people know, is if you just even search like metaphysical encyclopedia of ailments on Amazon, there's a few that have this. But there are books. It's sort of like expanded work of Louise Hay, who had done this a little bit, but it's even more expanded, where it's literally an encyclopedia of different health issues, physical health issues. And it talks about the affirmations or belief systems to start to say internally to help to start to remedy whatever the limiting belief is that's held subconsciously. And so it gives sort of a direction of where to go to start to heal that. I personally, this was kind of like the start of my journey. I had what society thought was long COVID. Okay, so I'll classify why I said it that way in a little bit. But I was sick for 2 years, right? This is before my awakening. And I live in Los Angeles, and I was at UCLA's long COVID research clinic. And, I just, it was sort of blind leading the blind. I was the guinea pig to them. They were doing this, which is great, setting up this clinic to try to learn more about people who were having, quote unquote, long COVID symptoms, and trying to, figure it out. But it was really sort of, blazing a trail. So I had to sort of and they were very helpful, but, it was, like I said, it was sort of new frontier. So I had to sort of be my own advocate for health and do my own research as well. And I joined like an online support group on Facebook for people who were experiencing this. And I started noticing how there were threads of people talking about how mind-body techniques were really beneficial. So I came across, nothing's a coincidence in my opinion, but synchronistically across Dr. Sue Morter's book on the energy codes, which I had never heard of her or the book because I wasn't sort of in this space at that time. And I started doing my first sort of breathwork techniques, and I started feeling better. And so I told the general practitioner at the clinic about this, and she was like, "Oh, well, it's like great timing that you mentioned this, also synchronistic," because there was a colleague of hers at UCLA who wanted to do a biofeedback study with people in the clinic. So people who had long COVID symptoms. And I didn't know much about biofeedback, but just to boil it down in one sentence, it's conscious, slow breathing. And so I did 6-week program of paced breathing. And I was doing slow breathing 10 minutes twice a day. Mostly mine was like a 4-6 count of deep diaphragmatic breathing, so lower belly breathing. And after 6 weeks, all of my neurological symptoms were gone. And the hypothesis of the breath work, the woman who was running the biofeedback study, which proved out it seemed to be true, at least in my case, was that long COVID really wasn't caused by the virus. It's just if you have a sensitive, hyperactive nervous system, hypervigilance that you're unaware of consciously, and people interpret getting COVID because of all the hype about everything that was going on in the world. They interpret it as a traumatic event, let's say, subconsciously. Your nervous system's just on high alert all the time. And so you're just stuck in fight or flight and you don't realize it. So what that breath work did for 6 weeks is it completely reset my nervous system and my symptoms went away. Right. And so that was a big perspective shift for me in seeing how like these sort of things really heal the body. And, that's ultimately why I also got involved and down this rabbit hole of getting certified in different modalities with Dr. Sue. But beyond that, I had my awakening in August 2023. So shortly after my long COVID, which was really the majority of 2022 and half of 2023. After my awakening, so, it's 2026, so a couple years, 2.5 years maybe. I've also, through this work, I've had previously had chronic acid reflux and was told by a gastroenterologist that I'd have to take Pepcid every day. Don't take any medication for reflux. I have a full diet. Don't cut anything out. I can drink alcohol and all acidic foods and, things that I had to cut out at periods of my life. I also, since I had moved to Los Angeles many moons ago, had seasonal sinusitis issues. So between like December and April every year, I'd get sinus migraines and sinus congestion. It was almost like having a chronic sinus infection. And so I had to do the neti pot every day. And I had, if it got really bad that it was going to turn into a migraine, I had a medication that was like part Flonase, part antihistamine, that, was a nose spray that I had to take. And I haven't even done the neti pot in over 2 years. So it's also gone. So it's like, I'm a personal witness. Like I do this, but I do it because it has been so transformative for my life. And I think it's an important gift, as someone who, had a completely different perspective about this previously, having gone through it personally. I've seen, how much it's impacted my health for the better just by, slowly chipping away at the subconscious and what the subconscious is holding. And so now, it's like I would argue I'm even healthier now than I was before, even getting that illness. So, so I think it's important, it's important, and it's been, and I
breathing
standing here
deep,
today, so
deep,
grateful.
deep breathing and perspective. And we did talk about that. I see it in a couple of ways, through fear, limiting belief. My framework is also, my practice is also breath work, intention, and yoga. I practice several different things, but if I go back, I was on medication in my 40s and took sinus medicine every day, and I do not now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just saying, and so I'm hesitant to use just anything now. I try to look for healthy ways to deal with anything, but I really appreciate what you're saying, because if you really look at it, just just mindfulness and breathing and intention. And I know, like, you're in the Freedom Project, it's like resetting your beliefs. And even the fact that we met and I keep having visions about you, it's like we have some kind of connection.
Totally.
So and I'll share that kind of briefly too, because although we've not really been around each other a lot, we both had a Kundalini awakening, um,
Yes.
which was pretty intense, for me last year, and you as well. And
Mm-hmm.
and it, partially is due to all the breath work and releasing fears. And we both, do spiritual work plus energy work. So that,
Mm-hmm.
that was one of the things. So my visions lately, I've dreamed you were in my dreams 3 times. One, I think we were just talking, and the second time, uh, we were, in the Bahamas doing, a retreat, and I got the message she's the teacher. And then the third dream was we were in Atlantis together as children. And that was, I was, the purpose was to kind of talk about health today, and why energy work works and how it works. And I've heard of Sue Morter. I've read a lot of books and seen a lot of things through energy stuff I do, because I've tried almost every modality, because I'm kind of like Mikey. Oh, there's this and that. So I've tried a lot of things too. And but they work.
Mm-hmm.
But it takes consistent practice. And even working with somebody like you have to take it and continue the practice. It's not just a one shot thing. And that's why I love the Destiny Matrix, because um I feel like my vibration's pretty high, but there's still a little wobble in a couple of places. And it's that the message I got was don't be afraid to look at the hard stuff, because that's where you're going to make the most progress, is once you see the shadow. Oh, you can't hide from your own shadow anymore. You just, you just can't.
Right.
And that may be a fear of aging, a fear of getting sick. And COVID was that. I also, I mean, I got sick right as COVID hit in 2020, and it lasted several months. And I was definitely in a shadow because I was a very active person. And suddenly, everything just dropped away. That, everything, the gym was closed, all the clubs, all the things were that I was doing. So I got in my car and drove out west and went to all the parks and just did natural things. And people were like, "You're crazy. What are you doing?" I'm like, I'm getting nature, you
Right.
know.
I
And
love that.
so COVID, the fear of getting sick was the thing that was creating the sickness within us. And that's what we have to be 100% responsible for, what is going on in our life. And that's one of the keys. And I even like the terms codes, because it's just a coding or a program that you're running, a script, a story, you know.
That's it. It's all vibration. Everything that exists is energy. So this computer that's in front of me, if you zoom in at an atomic level, it's made of atoms. So are you. So am I, right? So we're all the same at an atomic level, right? So if you want to think about it that way, it's just the universal currency of everything. So the more that you can look at your life, what's being reflected back to you in your life, how you feel internally, also and view it through the lens of energy being the basis of everything, I think is a helpful tactic. And so that's like one of the reasons why, like, I think that something like the soul blueprint mapping and the destiny matrix framework is useful, because that's what it's doing. It's basically translating your aspects of your life into energetic themes.
Yes, that's true.
So,
Okay.
mhm.
All right. So so you've described you had some health issues. And so this is one area that you work in, but you also work, you help other people when there's blocks with manifesting, like you
Mhm.
said. So that's where your coaching comes in. And how, I mean, I see the blocks in people, but it's easy to see them in others, but it's not always easy to see it in yourself, because we
Yeah.
have repetitive patterns, don't
Mhm.
we? And that's, you know, like you might be flexible in some areas, but you might be very rigid in your thinking, just based on the imprints from your birth. Like,
Mhm.
uh, if you grew up with parents who were, let's say they were very poor, then you got the imprinting of poverty. And so your safety is tied to that. So the soul
Mhm.
blueprint actually can show you where that pattern is and how to move. So do you move around in the matrix, because it's actually a geometric node? um, you move around, it shows the image, and then it shows you, where you're weak and where you're strong and where you need to kind of get balanced, because that's the key, is getting balanced in all of it, isn't it?
Yeah, it's certainly the key. The way that I typically like to move through it is looking at there's a core diamond shape, and if you want to think about those as like four sort of life pillars, so there's like your spiritual aspect, your physical material, your inner world, and then your like external, how you present externally. So those are kind of like four pillars that are foundational to your lifetime here. And then there's a square that are sort of the intersection or derived nodes from those main pillars. So, for example, your core identity, which is really like childhood imprinting, because that's sort of where we, by age 8, I think we have like most of our subconscious programming in terms of limiting beliefs. So, you know, it's like the core identity node, and then the spiritual identity node is sort of like your spiritual gifts, right? Is sort of the combination of both of those. So things that you brought into this lifetime that were sort of like pre-installed, let's say, that's sort of like a derivation of those. Conversely, like your spiritual channel node, and then your external, how you present to the external world or how others perceive you. You know, the combination of that is sort of your spiritual calling. It's like your intuition combined with how you move externally, right? So that's sort of, and how you present externally. So that's sort of your calling, right? So there's different nodes, and those are kind of like the main ones that I like to move through first. And then there's always a core theme in the center. And that is also, from the chakra standpoint, it's also your plexus, which makes sense because that's your core identity. Your plexus is your core. It's literally the chakra that's physically in your core. It's like at the base of your sternum until your belly button. And it's sort of your personal power center. That's what that chakra is. So that main theme is also your main theme of your life. That's probably going to be repeating. For sure, you're going to have experienced it on both the shadow and the light. And then from there, you know, there's all these different derivatives, but that's like the main foundation. But then there's all these different derivatives. There's some derived nodes that show 3 karmic tail. So 3 karmic lessons or challenges that were that you plan to overcome or pursue in this lifetime. And that could be related to ancestral karma or your own past life karma. And so for sure, you would have only experienced those in the shadow. There's also derived nodes for relationships, romantic, and mostly in this case, and career and finances, which are big areas, life areas for a lot of people, where they look for manifesting something that they're trying to come to fruition. So that, you know, talks about also core themes in the light and the shadow for both, as well as like values that are supportive for a career, for people who are looking for, you know, what they should be doing. We also go through all of the chakras, as you mentioned. So each chakra, kind of what's supportive for each one, which also helps in terms of balancing your chakras. And then some derived, just looking up, you know, someone's map as a whole, looking at the left side versus the right side. The left side's all of your inner world, the right side's all external. So like what themes are on your left side of your matrix versus your right, you know, that really tells me, what are you looking to transform internally into manifesting something externally. So that's unique to the person, as well as like repeating themes in their matrix, because those are like clearly core themes that they wanted to focus on. And then some cool stuff, or at least what I think is cool, you can derive from, you know, the horizontal line through the matrix is your earth line, is sort of your physicality line. And then the vertical line is your skyline or your spiritual line. That's like where all your chakras are. So, you know, by doing derivations of the numerology on that axis, you can kind of get these 3 intentions, or 3 destinies, if you will, for your lifetime, which are not set in stone. They're intentions. One sort of a service to self mission. And that's usually because we pick up, as I mentioned, most of our limiting beliefs by age 8 subconsciously. So you start in like the shadow to launch you on a trajectory, by contrast, into growth, into the light, right? That's the intention. So that's a service to self mission. That's the awakening process, right? That's I'm not this, I'm actually this, right? So that's the service to self mission, followed by a service to others mission. So once you realize who you are, it's what's the gift, your spiritual gifts that you're giving to others, and supporting humanity. And then beyond that, your holistic purpose. So that's where you're like, you know, and again, not everybody gets to all of these, but those who do, it's being a way shower of completion and mastery in something for people. So you're like someone just embodying a skill that's now just even by your presence is influencing people as someone who's a master in something. And that can actually be very influential, even, on a level that we don't consciously witness as you move about your day. And I like to take the numerology of the year with the birth date, so the current year and the next year, to see what archetype is most supportive in energy for this year and next year specifically for you. So that's generally kind of how I move through the reading. So there's a lot of information there.
I know it is. I know it is, but it is, I think it's helped me to kind of keep looking at it like once a week or
Mhm.
something, and then knowing that I was going to talk to you about it. And yeah, I've been on the spiritual path a long time, so these are things that I kind of comprehend. From yoga, I understand all the chakras,
Mhm.
and beyond that. And then tarot, I enjoy that because because I think you really can't see yourself sometimes, and
Sure.
that's what a shadow is. And I think that it's kind of a logical way, not an emotional way to look at it. It's
Mhm.
very structured, and even the life themes I could clearly see, from other readings and other things I've done, uh, where I was totally in service to self and move through service to others,
Mhm.
because I was a social worker. And of course, I've been helping people, sometimes over giving, but, just kind of letting that go a little bit too, because everybody's sovereign and they can take care of themselves. But your presence, is necessary in a lot of situations. Some are not always easy, but you can be, unaffected by it when you realize, oh, this is what makes me feel, not good. Because, like I said, as a social worker, yes, I was exposed to things that were, I didn't like it, or think all of society doesn't like it, and so, but my presence was necessary in that, just to be a steady person, even in that, and it brought me into spiritual work because I was, consciously looking for ways to help people and even myself. Like, you can't really help others if you can't be steady and stable. So,
That's it.
so anyway, it's
That's true.
that's the key. It
Mhm.
you and as much as you move through, or even if, and especially once you have like a Kundalini awakening, you're like, oh, I'm there, I'm done. No, you're still going to be in the world, and the world is going to show you it. There's things that are going to happen that you're going to have to look at that you're not going to like. So
Right.
you just have to be okay, because it's a limiting belief that the world has got to be perfect for me to be perfect inside.
The good
So
news is it doesn't have to be hard. I think a lot of people, especially people who are like dipping their toe into spiritual work, are like, oh, well, this is going to be painful. This is going to be scary. It doesn't have to be, right? Like things like breath work is a way to not have to, experience it on something that's tough. Also, energy healing work, yoga, even, or Pilates, are active meditations. They're ways of also working out density that's stuck in the fascia, through like a meditation, because you have to be presently focused in what you're doing. You can even take mindful walks, right? Like there's so many ways to practice being present, and to move the body, or to reprogram what's being stored subconsciously. So you can go through a more physical route, which is like more of the yoga, and that side, to energy, healing on one end, and breath work and all of that. So it's like, there's different ways to do it, and there's no one way to skin a cat. It's whatever resonates with the person, but it doesn't have to be hard. It can be something that you can face, and actually you wind up seeing that your fear is just a house of cards, right? Like,
Yeah,
it's
I
like
would
once
say
you go through it.
even though I say it was suddenly like I took yoga for 20 years and like the last year that I took it, I was like crying a lot in yoga and I couldn't figure it out. Like I would be in yoga doing my poses and suddenly just tears would come out. And so it was just, I finally got to the place with with all the other aspects of my life that there was something in my body that needed to be released, and that was just the way. Actually use a lot of things, like being in nature, going on walks, swimming. I went swimming today,
Beautiful.
because I think water is very healthy. Sometimes just talking to friends can be helpful too, but you you need friends that are um going to be steady and tell you the truth, and not friends that are going to complain and whine and um wallow with you is what I say. You need friends that are on the same level, who can really speak the truth and hold their thoughts. I mean, you're very talented when it comes to working with people, because you really have to be neutral when you're working with people. And neutrality is a very key aspect of an energy worker. And so, I see that in you.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, yeah, I think that's it's not just about training, it's like actually embodying it and embracing it.
Totally.
And
It's also, I mean, aside from the training, it's also an intuitive practice, so it's both, for sure. But at the end of the day, I have the perspective that every person, every human that is in existence and has ever existed and will ever exist, at their core is just pure consciousness, right? That is pure
yes,
positive love and acceptance. And we have to remember that everybody's here for an experience, because when you only exist as that eternally, you don't grow, right? You're just always that. So having this cool experience where you can come into this reality and have so much contrast and experience a full range of emotions and experiences, really whatever you want to experience. And some of it, I'm not gonna try to glaze over. Some of it is tough, right? But at the same token, we don't grow unless there's contrast. So, to the extent that we can look at everybody as just being the same as us, right? It's the same light, same light. That's what I say to myself internally when I find myself slipping into that 3D comparison, particularly when I'm on my like soul cycle bike trying to beat the person next to me. I'm like, no, 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 same light, right? So it's like, no one's better or worse, right? We're all the same. But it's just, people just have different themes that they're exploring. They just have a different matrix, right? And some people are just more along in recognizing those things and working through them to discover who they truly are than others. And none of it's right or wrong. So to the extent that we can see everybody through those lens, we can have more compassion. And I think that's where we can really be open to helping a lot of people.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, I think I was, um I'm sure I was trained to be neutral, but I'm not always neutral about everyone. In relationships, I think that's where close relationships, yeah, oh, I care, I care, let me help you, over helping, over giving, instead of just allowing people to go through what they're going through. Because no matter what you say to people, if they're going through a, a dark period, yes, you can be stable and sit with them, but you can't go with them. You can't go down to raise people up. You really have to stay at a certain level. But all the, so you've been trained in a lot of different things. And how do you
Yeah.
like working with people? Do you enjoy it?
I love it. It's like my true passion, and particularly because of my own health journey, which, I see was a very necessary step for my contrast to be able to get to this perspective. So yeah, I mean, to be able to, I look at it as like, wow, this has helped me so much and transformed my life. And I wish that I had known this knowledge sooner. And so, yeah, I mean, to me, I just love like giving this gift to other people, particularly also with like the coaching, for example. It's like I'm giving people tools to be able to do this for themselves long term, right? It's like once I show them how to do specific breathing techniques, then when something, a negative charged situation comes up, they have tools, right? They don't have to just try to avoid it or like run away from it. They can actually do breath work and face it and release it pretty seamlessly within a matter of minutes. And so it's like, it's also empowering people to be able to do this for themselves, because that's like where the real transformation is. It's not just, a one and done sort of thing. It's like, I am an energy healer. I also go and get energy healing regularly, right?
Me
It's
too.
like,
Yeah, I
I'm
love
also
it. I
human.
love it.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
also human, and I also want to work on my shadow. I'm not, here as an
Uh-huh.
energy healer being like, I don't have a shadow. No, we're all human. We do. So it's like, I see the power of this and how it's transformative. I still do that as maintenance for me,
Uh-huh.
as health
Uh-huh.
for me. So that's how much I believe in it, is I'm also do it myself. So, go to
Yeah.
get it done also.
Yeah, I'm having a lot of that come up with friends right now. And part of it is because of the age I'm at.
Mhm.
So I'm saying like health problems are very prevalent in society in people in my age
Sure.
group. So I'm questioning that belief system and structure because
Mhm.
I'm doing energy work and the human blueprint is that it can heal itself naturally and that we can live long, healthy lives. And so I still feel like that is a very, it, but so I have to let go of judgment and I have to be neutral um, for instance, in yoga, a few of my girlfriends are having surgeries and this is in my family. It's kind of prevalent right now. So you're faced with this and yet your belief structure is or my belief structure is that we can be healthy for a long time and we don't have to age badly. We can age gracefully,
I
and
believe
that
that
is
100%. Yeah,
100%.
I was
Yes.
gonna say, like, I believe that too, and I think that it's easier said than done based on humanity's sort of programming for thousands of years. But I think when anyone gets a health issue, they automatically catastrophize, like most people, right? And I was certainly guilty of doing this for a long period of time. It's like I have a headache, like, oh, you go into WebMD and it's like you have terminal cancer, right? It's like that's what WebMD. It's like I'm
What?
shopping, like it's like and it's like so, I think everybody tends to catastrophize because they want to protect themselves, and they have we have a survival fear about our mortality. Like we're programmed into that from when we were like cave people, right? It's like our survival. However, if we can just, uh, and it's a practice, but just when this happens, notice when we initially have the fear instinct, and then try to move into curiosity, right, which is a higher vibration and the most helpful, because when we're in fear, we can't we're muting the connection between us and our higher selves, so we can't hear the guidance as much. But if we can just kind of calm down and get to a regulated place, whether that's through breathing or meditation, and then ask ourselves, what is the message that this is trying to tell us, and you trust that you will get an answer, you will, or you leveraging something like that encyclopedia, if that's helpful, that we were talking about earlier, the metaphysical sort of ailments encyclopedia, any of those modalities. But at the end of the day, the body is just a messenger, because again, it's all energy. So
Mhm.
there's a limiting belief that you're not looking at and you're not looking at and you're not looking at, well, then life's going to smack you with the 2x4, so you have to look at it. And if you look at it from
Yes.
that lens, you're like, oh, okay, like it doesn't have to be dire. We don't have to catastrophize this. Maybe it was a memo that I wasn't getting. And now I'm looking at it. You know, I just went to dinner last night with my friend. This came up and she was like, you know, I threw my back out on this trip recently. And I was like, well, was it your upper back or lower back? And she was like, it was my lower back. And I was like, well, you know, and a lot of times the messages in the body, Louise Hay has said the same thing. It's very literal, right? Like lower back to me is like, you're spending so much extra time supporting other people, you know, too much at self-sacrifice. So that's what your lower back's telling you. And now you're finally throwing your back out because you're not listening to it. And she's like, oh, well, I have been like, you know, taking care of my mom. And then you know, I want my boyfriend to travel, but he's an entrepreneur. And instead he wants to do these things, go, you know, to see his mom, but he's not coming with me. And I'm just saying yes. And I'm like, okay, well, this is why your back is being thrown out, right? It's like, because you're not getting the memo. And now that it's in your attention, you know what the cause is, see how you can work on that, you know, because it's okay to, of course, give to other people and to be supportive, but not to the expense where you're depleted, right? Then it becomes shadow, because that's self-sacrifice to the point of where it's doing you harm, where your battery is drained. And that's what builds resentment and all these other feelings that are shadow. So, you know, sometimes it's just paying attention to the message, you know, and I think if people can look at that lens,
Yeah. And that's, you know, I really liked Louise Hay, but you know, there's another book. And here's the thing. It's like your body is going to be you know, it's going to keep giving you signals. And I like the body because we really need to tune into the body. Like hypersensitivity is a body message. And it is asking for more information. And it might be something slight or easy to do, like drink more water or go for walks or something simple, get a massage, maybe go on a trip with a girlfriend or do something different than you're doing. Maybe you're on the computer too much or you're, you know, helping others and you're not listening to what your body needs. Like that might be food, it might be um exercise, it might be lots of things or just better rest. So that's
or it
my
could also be, oh, sorry, what were you going to say?
no, go ahead.
I was going to
Go ahead.
say, or it could also just be like a chakra related, like this was like my
Mhm.
epiphany that I had for health issues. My family has certain health issues that are very repetitive in the generations of my family. One of them is diabetes. Another is celiac, high cholesterol. And then as I was doing my research about this, they're all plexus related issues. Okay. So, like, and I was just like, wow, you know, like literally all of these like ingrained repetitive things are all related to the same area of the body. And, you know, a lot of my family has, you know, digestive issues, you know, and I had, when I talked about like reflux, and I've had gastritis in the past. So those are all symptoms of plexus issues, right? So it's also kind of looking at our family history, like what are the things that are kind of repetitive, because that was a clue to me, like, okay, I got to work on balancing my solar plexus, because that's like the key to, you know, not leaning into some of these other disorders or illnesses that have been in my family ancestrally. And a lot of people will say, and I know we talked about this the other day, that, well, it's genetically passed on. Again, everything's energy. I believe it's epigenetic. And actually there was a study with mice that I was reading about how they had these mice and they like played a noise with the mice. And when they did the noise, they unfortunately shocked the mice. Okay. But the mice learned that when they played the noise, they would be scared, right? They would have a fear response and they would like freak out. And then they bred the mice. Okay. So then the mice had children, and the baby mice, they rang the noise, but they didn't shock them. And the baby mice reacted in the same fear response. Okay. So that was an epigenetic test, right? A study that was done. And so just because my family has a history of diabetes which, by the way, as I've come to realize, which sort of makes sense because it's about sugar in the body, it's like some subconscious belief about like a cap on joy. It's sort of related to that. Like if you have too much joy, the other shoe is going to drop, or you're not worthy of so much joy or whatever, but it's a subconscious belief. And so if if I can correct that limiting belief subconsciously within me, I will not have diabetes, right? So it's like, this is my belief system. I don't think because things are quote unquote hereditary that means you're going to be stuck with these things. It's maybe saying a clue as to subconsciously passed along belief systems that have been deeply ingrained in an ancestral line that haven't been addressed. And maybe you're the
Yes.
one.
And,
Maybe you're the one in the
I'm,
family.
and I'll have to say that, there were a couple of things that ran in my family,
Mhm.
diabetes. My mother, she had stomach issues. She had a lot of issues. And then, in the end, um, but my siblings have had lots of surgeries and
Mhm.
diabetes, both of them.
Mhm.
So this is proof to me that your beliefs actually structure your physical health because we have the same genetics. There's no doubt. I have two siblings, and um, it's not just that. I'm hearing it in all of the people in my, reality. They're all, they say things over and over again, like, oh, this is old age, or oh, I get this when I get a certain age, or my father had this. And they it's connections, but you don't, you're manifesting that. That's what you're
Right.
manifesting. And
Right.
so I do believe that I carried a strong belief that I didn't have to get sick. And I don't know where I got that from, but I think I was like rejecting that idea early on.
Mhm.
And then, you know, I decided, I think I just decided I'm not going to do it that way. So, really, a strong, positive belief system in the area of the physical body and health. You know, it doesn't matter if you're unhealthy now, you can switch it to healthy, by
Totally.
addressing it with energy work, with physical play. But the main thing is breath work, joy, staying in an emotional state that's above love. It's what I call it, love or above. And that is the frequency, you know, when you get down into the safety and lower areas of the chakras, you really have to structure and do the work. You have to do the work. And that's what you're doing. So I appreciate all the work you've done, and I appreciate you helping
Likewise,
people.
Tammy, by the way.
Um,
Even
I
this
mean,
this discussion, this is like,
I,
I appreciate
I,
this. This is good work
yeah,
too.
I use it. Well, this is, the receipts of it is what you need to focus on. It's like, okay, but you're going to bump up against people that are going to question that belief system because everyone is not where you're at. So
Mhm.
this is where the work is. And that's why I really enjoyed this Destiny Matrix so much because it helps me move through reality in a way. um what am I focusing on? And you know that's that's why I loved it so much, and I keep telling everybody about it. I'm like, wow, this is cool.
Thank you.
This is really good. So
So
I
cool.
know that it might be a challenge for people to go from 0 to 100, like, oh, this is true, and we have to have magical thinking to get through this time. It's what I'm understanding. And we have to really embrace our magic. We have to understand about energy and love, the power of light. And I've got my magic skills, and I'm really grateful I met you. I'm grateful you came today. And sorry, I was having issues, but
Yeah.
technology doesn't always work for me. I won't lie.
Me too. Not my
But
strong point, so I understand.
it's okay. Okay. Well, you're doing great. So, well, thank you. I'm going to let you
Thank you.
go. Unless there's anything else you want to add, I think we covered a lot of topics. I wanted to
Totally.
really focus on health because it seems to be like blowing up, and um, just keep spreading the light, Jamie. You're doing
Totally.
great.
Thank you so much, Tammy. This was wonderful. I think it's a super important topic, and also that's why I'm like so passionate about it. So I appreciate you facilitating this discussion so we can share our perspectives. And this was lovely. And also, I'm just grateful for you in general. So thank you for being in my life
Oh,
and for
that's so
making this
sweet.
possible.
All right. I'll talk to you later then. Okay. Bye.
Bye.